So now it's time to do the marking, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to mark one half, cut out the cavity, and then I'll transfer the marked cavity onto the other half. So this is one half, and the first thing we need to do is to decide on the kind of mouth line, and I'm going to place a mark 275 millimeters back from the front of the plane, and I've made a mark here, and this is going to decide my bed line. So from there I want to mark a 50-degree angle. Here I've got a angle set here on this for 50 degrees, and made a 50-degree. This is going to be my 50-degree bed angle. So this here is 50, and my blade will obviously sit on there. Now for the abutment, you'll want to get my blade. So you get your blade, and you want to place that on your bed, and you want to find out where the actual blade edge will lie. So I've got that there, and I'm going to place a mark right at the blade tip. Now that will help you decide on your kind of placement of your abutment or the wedge kind of bedding place. So from that mark I want to mark a little bit further back because I don't want to have a huge mouth, and I can always open up the mouth later. And I want to mark a line 8 degrees steeper than my bed line. 8 degrees to 10 degrees is a good kind of wedge kind of angle, so I've chosen 8, and I'm going to mark that like so. This was set for, since this is 50, this is 58, set my angle there. And this is your kind of wedging surface. So your blade will sit in here, and then a wedge will sit in here, butt against here, and wedge the blade down. Now, from this mark here at the top you just created, measure your blade width from, in my case, 60 millimeters plus a 1/4 inch. That's going to make mine about 66 millimeters. So I'm going to make a mark from there along the top at 66 millimeters. There. And from that, actually no, not from that yet, but from this abutment line at the bed, at the kind of the mouth here, you want to mark an angle, maybe, I don't know, plus 5-10 degrees, 5 to 10 degrees, anything like that. So 58 plus maybe, I'm going to make mine at 64 degrees. Now this will provide clearance for your chips, and I'm going to draw a line kind of roughly in that direction. And this is basically it allows the edge of your blade to sit down here, and obviously it will provide some clearance for your chips to escape. You don't want this too shallow because obviously your chips will just get jammed, and you don't want it too steep because when you go to flatten your sole of your plane, this angle prevents the mouth from getting too wide, so you don't want it too kind of steep in that way because it'll just defeat the purpose of it. So I've made mine plus maybe 5-6 degrees from my wedge line here, and I drew a line. This is just a guideline, and from here I want to measure maybe about 35 millimeters. So 35 millimeters I've measured, and I'm going to just darken that line there a bit. So 35mm up along there, and from that end point I'm going to join up with the line the mark I created at the top here, which is your blade width plus 1/4 of an inch line. Run out of lid there. And so here we have the basic throat layout on the inside face. So we have your bed mouth here. This is the front of your mouth. This will need to be opened up because we moved it back, remember? This is your wedging line, your bed line here, 50 degrees on my particular plane. And this here provides the clearance to get your hand down here to get the chips out. And this angle here is called the wear, and this provides clearance for the shavings, plus it kind of helps to keep the mouth narrow when you kind of re-flatten your sole. Now with the inside surface here marked, we need to mark the top of the plane so we know how far to actually take this cavity. First up, I'm going to square up these lines along the top here. So the front throat line here, the wedge line, and then the bed line. Okay, then you want to take a kind of marking gauge or something, and you want to mark on the bed line here the half the width of your iron plus 1mm or so for lateral adjustment, and I'm just going to make a mark there. I'll also use that same measurement mark on the abutment line and also at the front here. Now we can join those up. Just here though. So I'm going to mark a line here. I'm not going to mark up to here. Now, with that done, you want to kind of mark this wedge section here. This is where the wedge will actually butt against when you tap the wedge in. So this is going to be 1/4 of an inch in. So set your marking implement to roughly 1/4 of an inch more. Make a mark there and there. And again, now we'll join those two up. At the front. So the next thing we need to do is to mark this diagonal kind of section here, because this is going to provide more room for your fingers and stuff, and also for the chips to escape. So we need to kind of widen this throat area, and we're going to use this mark plus maybe 1mm or 2. So again, set there. You don't want to go too far out, and you could probably use the same measurement as here, but aesthetically I like the look of a slightly wider throat there. So then I'll join that diagonal line up, join those 2 points up with the diagonal line there, and all this here will be taken out, and here as well, and I'll be using an electric router to take all this out. You can use saws and chisels, etc., but electric router is a lot faster, possibly more accurate, and it's just an easier job. But you can use any method you want, and that's what we'll be doing next. The first piece I'm going to kind of excavate is this kind of main piece for the blade and the wedge. You can see at the mouth I've actually drawn again squared lines down from the bed line and the mouth line, and I've also marked the depth I need to go, same as on the top end here. and that's just to guide me for when I'm sawing. I said I was going to use an electric router to take this chunk out, but to make the job for the router easier, I'm going to saw a couple of lines down here, roughly, and then chisel out the majority of the waste. So, you know, it doesn't have to do so much work. You don't have to be too precise here, but you don't want to go too close to the lines, and you don't want to be too rough, because then your router will just have more work to do. So after I've sawn these two curves, I'm just going to do a bit of chopping. Just So I've chopped out a lot of the waste, but there's quite a lot of material left, so I'm just going to kind of take that down a little bit further with a chisel. This is just to make the job for the route easier, so there's less chance of kickback, and you know, it makes a cleaner cut.